Hello, my name is Dr. Sophia Omoro, owner and designer of odAOMO. Thank you for joining us for our docu-series, Conversations with odAOMO, Beyond the Beautiful Things. Our topic today covers the relevance of African aesthetic to a contrasting non-African culture in a contemporary world. I hope you get inspired as you listen to this deep and very relevant conversation. And don't forget, stay tuned to the end to listen to my wrap-up. See you soon.
Nisha Kanabar, welcome here from across the way in Dar es Salaam?
Indeed, yes, we're neighbors.
Yeah, nice to see you after a while.
It has been a while. How have you been?
Surviving like everybody else, doing my best, trying to stay positive.
Well, you look amazing.
Thank you, so do you, Nisha. So let's just jump right in. We have 20 minutes and I don't want to waste 1 second of it.
Sure.
Now, Nisha Kanabar, you are the founder of Industrie Africa, a directory and store of over 80 luxury African brands from 24 different African countries. In an article from The Cut by the New York Times, you describe Industrie Africa as a space of commerce, content, and community celebrating and representing the voices of the industry and its pioneers. You say it was important for you to create a 360-degree hub of contemporary African fashion that's global, curated, and current. Now, it's really lovely to have you, Nisha, because I think you provide a very unique, bird's eye view perspective of what's happening on this continent fashion-wise. Which I assume is a very dynamic space, no?
Absolutely. It's incredibly diverse, as are African aesthetics. There's no singular way to sort of paint with broad strokes, I think, when it comes to African fashion.
I mean, what is your process, let me say, of curating Industrie Africa?
Sure. So I think it's important before I kind of dive into that to talk a little bit about our mission. So we started Industrie Africa as a method to sort of challenge these stereotypical constructs of what people perceive to be African fashion, through this traditional print movement or ceremonial garb, which is largely what the West perceives African fashion. The second is to represent underrepresented African fashion voices and harness them authentically. So through a lens that's global, through a framework that feels international, that feels intuitive to a fashion-loving audience, no matter where they are in the world. And I think on that note, a designer can be African and not be forced to conform to traditional worldviews of what Africanness is. So at Industrie Africa, we prefer to steer clear of these cliches that people have created around the subject or the aesthetic or the topic. Contemporary is a really key word in the way that we navigate that. So when we look for new designers, we look for sort of distinctiveness in their perspectives and diversity in their points of view. We look for interesting innovation and innovation in the way they execute, but also unexpected ideas or design sensibilities.
And so I guess contemporary fits into that definition that you've just given. If you can define for everybody else what you personally consider to be this idea of contemporary African fashion design.
I call it everyday artisanship. Everyday artisanship is ready to wear that is a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit more special and unique in its approach. It draws from cultures in an interesting way and tells a story. So the way I look at it is designers that create their own codes of design through reinterpretation of their textiles, through reinterpretation of their stories, their techniques to kind of create new ways of thinking and new ways of perceiving. So you look at brands like Funko, you look at brands like Thebe Maguwu, like Emmy Casbet, like Shakudo, like Kiko Romeo from Nairobi. All these designers are sort of taking their environments and pushing them sort of a little bit further and creating conversations around them.
Now, I really enjoy this aesthetic you guys have at Industrie Africa, in the sense that you, in a head-to-toe look that you guys have either on your Instagram account or the edits that you have on your website, you can literally sort of see the breadth of Africa in one look, right? Tell us about that process. I think that's one of the strengths that we admire most about Industrie.
Thank you. I think that's due to editing. You know, a curated point of view is a very important part of what we do, and curated for a luxury customer, and that's a very specific viewpoint as well. So I think the way we sort of bring that together is creating this sort of clean, intuitive infrastructure or experience that both elevates and celebrates. So we kind of take pride in our edit, you know, and in the way that we've done that, we've realized that we've stumbled upon this sort of, I guess, new age retail model that's a curated retailer, you know, the familiar experience that comes with your Net-a-Porters, that comes with your Matches Fashion, that comes with your Farfetch, that curated assortment. But then also we've merged that with the intimacy of a brand's own storefront. So you feel as if when you purchase from us, you feel as if you're gaining a sort of a piece of the brand. You're interacting with the brand itself. With the way we talk about their product, it's as if the brand own presence is in collaboration with your experience. So it very much allows us to remain authentic to who we are as, you know, as African creators, at the same time perceived through this global, elevated, luxurious, and edited framework.
Now, as you collect all these brands, African brands and aesthetics, and you coalesce them within your platform, are you able to see trends emerging? I mean, is there a synergy that exists within African designers where they reference each other? And there are moments where they all sort of create things that are easily pieced together, easily curated, easily styled together. Do you see any of that sort of designers bouncing ideas off of each other, or, you know, sharing references, or, you know, that's what I meant by trends?
I think there is definitely a stronger sense of community in the African fashion space. I think that when it comes to sort of these traditional trends, perhaps we don't follow the sort of international sort of construct of that. However, we do see sort of similar threads through many collections. Of course, textiles sort of take center stage in many of designers' collections, season on season. You see certain colorways taking shape, and that coincide concurrently with the international runways. But that, of course, has to do with trend forecasting and Pantone, and, you know, we all have access to, you know, incredible resources to allow us to think and stay current in that sense. I think speaking to each other is a relatively new thing for us. Coming together collectively, I think, is also a relatively new thing for us. So I wouldn't say that, you know, we sort of align ourselves on purpose. If it happens in a very organic way. If, you know, perhaps we saw a lot of fringe, for example, in their spring summer collections, and fringe, it manifested in Egypt in leather. It manifested in, I guess, in Nigeria, inspired by certain ceremonial garbs that belong to the Yoruba tribe. It manifested in Ghana through axes, you know, raffia woven bags. So you do see elements of, I would say, trends, but I wouldn't say they follow, you know, what you would see on the London, Paris, New York runways.
Speaking of luxury, let's address the elephant in the room, Nisha, which is why promote luxury right now, right? I mean, we're in times where, luxury is seen to take a backseat to politics and social unrest and even just basic survival. So what is it about luxury that you would say is interesting for us right now at a time where, much of the world is struggling? Tell us how luxury can be helpful.
African fashion is a relatively new consumer experience for a lot of people. And I don't just mean the West or the global environment, I also mean us as Africans. Until recently, luxury for us was not synonymous with local craftsmanship, was not synonymous with local design. When we used to think about purchasing luxury, it used to be, oh, let's go to do that in our next trip to Dubai or our next trips to wherever, London, annual trip to London or whatever that was to us, growing up. So I think it's first important to define what luxury is. And I think what luxury used to be is not what luxury is today. Luxury used to be very synonymous with exclusivity, with aspiration, with these sort of European aesthetics, right? With this rigid tradition that comes with that. And I think today it very much resonates with a younger customer, through pillars of authenticity, through pillars of emotional connection and intimacy. Environmental consciousness, I think, is a huge part of that. And I think similarly with African luxury, and this sort of ties it back to our continent, it's not about price point. It's not about at what price something sits, but it's about the strength and the depth of a story that a brand seeks to tell through its craft. I think true luxury brands are really those that come from this place of innovation. And what's interesting is that they're inherently sustainable in these parts. For the most part, there's an inherent slowness to African fashion that people are returning to. African designers inherently operate with a no-waste approach, and that often resonates with people. We support our communities. That resonates with people as well. It's this return to authenticity, I think, that people resonate with, that is synonymous with luxury today.
And do you think, for example, a Japanese customer sitting in Asia, you think that is also what they respond to, this authenticity, this idea of, having a conscious consumption? You think that even though there are countries that are completely opposed, what looks like opposed to Africa, completely different from us, but still want to consume from us, would you say that it's that authenticity that really draws them?
So there's a certain education component that I think we're able to offer that a lot of platforms aren't able to offer. And that contributes to a conversation that's kind of a larger conversation, that's a knowledge exchange, that's a culture exchange, it's a design exchange, and also gives, I guess, the world access to a landscape that's little known. I think more than ever, people today like to be educated about their purchases. They like to know who they're purchasing from, the textiles with which something was made, the techniques with which something was made. They like to shop thoughtfully and consciously, whatever that means to them. They like a certain transparency in their discovery experience that we're able to align with. And what's interesting also is that studies will show that people align these values that they have with their luxury purchase decisions. So it's really not limited to to a particular type of person. I think this is the customer today. This is the millennial customer today, and it is the future Gen Z customer of tomorrow. I think people like that sort of intimate service experience that comes with African fashion, and I can confidently say that we certainly do have customers in Japan, so that there is a proof of concept there.
So listen, we don't have much time left. I just want to close with asking you, what has brought you the most joy in building Industrie Africa? What lifts your spirit and keeps you going, even in times where, things are difficult right now? So tell us, the spark that keeps you moving.
It's about transforming perceptions of what people consider to be African fashion. It's a huge part of what we do. It's about sort of contributing to a formal infrastructure of what African fashion is. And that sort of investment in our community means a lot to me, purely because we sort of tailor our model around designers' existing distribution strategies. We tailor it to create sustainable solutions for long-term growth. It's about creating, I guess, regenerative economic growth, and not just sort of putting their products on a pretty platform to sell to a customer today. It's about where we're going with this, and the world is looking at African design a little bit differently, and we just happen to really be on the cusp of that. They're looking at African design through the lens of, and African artists and talent through a lens of collaboration and as collaborators. Whereas prior, that really wasn't that conversation, there really wasn't an exchange that was occurring. The fact that we're able to have a Pan-African platform catered to a Pan-African design community is kind of coinciding with an inward shift in the direction of Pan-African pride, in the direction of creative and intellectual Pan-Africanism. And that's a story that I really think we can be a part of. I think it's a new respect that we've gained for ourselves that other people are now starting to respect as well, and other sort of engagers are now starting to respect as well. So there's sort of a big education component that makes this an uphill battle, of course, but I'm really excited about the potential that we have to grow.
Nisha, we thank you for your work. We thank you for your very impassioned insights. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care over there, okay?
Thank you so much, Annabelle.
Thank you, Nisha and Annabelle, for your perspectives. In my opinion, the heartbeat of a culture, as shown through its people and what they wear, their aesthetic, their soul, never dies. And even though we become more global as we're able to travel and see other cultures, we should remain true to ourselves and simply inspire another. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.